I'm Rebecca from engVid. Let's start this lesson with a little exercise, okay? Now I want you to tell me which of these three sentences is correct. Do we say, never I drive to work, or I never drive to work, or I drive never to work? One of them is correct, two of them are wrong. Which one is right? Think about it for a second. Okay, so I hope you said that this one is right and the others are wrong. But the point is, why should it be like that? Okay, maybe it's not like that in your language. Why is it like that in English? And is it always like that in English? How are you supposed to know? Okay, it's not easy. One of the things that you need to do when you're learning another language, like English, is to not only learn vocabulary, but also to know where to put that vocabulary in the sentence, right? You need to know the correct word order, the natural word order. And it's not always easy to know that. So in this lesson, I'm going to focus on teaching you adverbs of frequency, which you know these words, but I'm going to give you a simple system so that you know exactly where to put these words when you're constructing a sentence, okay? There is a system and it does vary, but it's also easy for you to learn once you understand the system. So what are adverbs of frequency? Well, these are words which are basically telling us about time, how often you do something, okay? For example, words like never, which is 0% of the time, all the way to always, which is 100% of the time, or sometimes, which is half of the time, 50-50, or words like rarely, seldom, which could be anywhere from 10 to 15, 20% of the time, or words like often and usually, which might be 70 to 80% of the time, okay? So you probably know these words and you may be using them already, but if you're not using them in the right position, then you're going to sound awkward, okay? And unnatural. And what I want to do is to help you to sound more natural and more fluent, okay? So let's learn the system. Okay, so for adverbs of frequency, there are actually 3 patterns that you can follow that will make your life easier, and every time you follow that pattern, you will be right, okay? I'm not giving you all of the variations. I'm just giving you the patterns that will make sure that you are always right, okay? Let's start with the first 2 patterns. So, we put the adverb of frequency after the verb to be, but we put the adverb of frequency before other verbs, all other verbs, okay? Let me give you an example. So, I am, okay, the verb to be, I am usually on time. Or, she was always polite, okay? So here you saw whether it was in the present tense or past tense, doesn't matter. It's the verb to be. So what does it mean? It goes, the adverb of frequency, usually, always, never, all those stuff, goes after the verb, okay? But look what happens when we have all of the other verbs in the English language. It goes, the adverbs of frequency go before the verb. For example, I usually arrive on time. What's the verb? Arrive. So the adverb goes before it. Here, she always spoke politely. So the verb spoke and the adverb goes before it. Okay? So with the verb to be, it goes after. With all other verbs, it goes before. All right? By following this pattern, you will always be right. Okay? That's for these 2. Now there is one other situation, and I'm going to show you what that is in just a second. All right. So now let's look at the 3rd pattern. So when the verb consists of more than one word, for example, when we have an auxiliary verb, or we have a helping verb, or we have a modal verb. So then we have, let's say, the helping part or the modal part, and then we have the main verb. Then we put the adverb of frequency in the middle, okay? So we sometimes put it before, we sometimes put it after, but in this case, we're putting it in the middle, okay? So let's look at the example so you'll understand clearly. And what do I mean by auxiliary verbs and modal verbs? Words like this. Will, which we use for the future, right? The have, which we use in the perfect tenses. May, might, can, could, would, should, okay? So these are usually followed by a verb. I may go, I can go, I would go, right? So if you have an adverb of frequency, you put it between those, all right? Let's look at an example. I will always love you. There was a famous song by that name, right? By Whitney Houston. I will always love you. All right. She has always been brilliant. Has been always goes in the middle. Okay. They would always visit us. Would, visit, always goes in the middle. Should, you should always look both ways before crossing the street. Should and look always goes in the middle. He can always call me. Can, call, always goes in the middle. And we could always leave early. Could, leave, always goes in the middle. All right? Did you get that? Okay? So now let's practice what we've learned with these 3 patterns in the quiz that we're going to do right now. All right, so let's do our review, okay? But before you start the examples, let's do a quick review of the actual principles. So the adverbs of frequency will go before most verbs, after the verb to be, and between 2-part verbs like auxiliary verbs or modal verbs and so on, okay? All right, so try to apply those principles. Number 1, it is great to see you. So where could we put the word always? It is great to see you. Where can you put the word always? Think about it. So I'll help you analyze this one a little bit if you don't know automatically. Okay, so what's the verb here? Is, right? So after the verb to be, it goes after, right? So it is always. It's always great to see you. Good. Number 2, he checks his email at noon. We want to put in the word usually. He checks his email at noon. What's the verb? Checks. So it goes before most verbs. So it would go here. Okay, I'm not going to write it, but you understand. He usually checks his email at noon. Good. Number 3, they will agree to that price. You want to put the word never. So where do you put that? Look at the sentence. They will never agree. Right, I heard you. Because here we have one of those 2-part verbs, right? Will and agree. So it goes in between. Number 4, it's cold in March. Where do we put the word usually? Yes? Good. We put it here. It's usually cold in March. Why? We had the verb to be again. So it goes after that verb. Number 5, you should confirm your flight. Where should we put the word always? So look at the sentence. This is it, right? 2 parts. Goes in the middle. You should always confirm your flight. And number 6, she calls on Saturday. Where do we put the word often? Okay, here's our verb. This is like most verbs, so it goes here. She often calls on Saturday. Okay, now, just for you to know, what I've done here is given you the easiest rules that you can follow to always be right. Some of these adverbs of frequency can go in other places at other times, but not always. So rather than trying to remember 17 rules, I think it's easier for you to learn 3 rules and always be right. All right? Now, if you'd like some more practice with this, which is always helpful, please go to our website at www.engvid.com, and there you can do a quiz on this, which will help you to reinforce those principles very well. And while you're at engVid, you can also check out some of our other lessons, which we may be linking to, in fact, in our lesson description, so that you can also learn more about adverbs of frequency in general if you're not too sure about them. Okay, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for lots of other grammar hacks and vocabulary hacks and English hacks in general to help you learn faster and more easily. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.